All right, I think we're live now. Let's see. Let me fix my screen, make sure that I'm not screen sharing. I muted you, Jeff. 1 second here. Let me get you unmuted. There we go. Are you unmuted now? There we go.
Yeah,
Okay,
I just had to hit the button.
there we go. Cool. Well, hey, this is a little strange. It's the first time I am live streaming with Zoom, so it's a little weird, but we can roll with it. Welcome everybody to Zenfolio Live. I just want to say we have a special guest. Super excited for you guys that are joining us. Happy Thursday. I'm Robert with Zenfolio Customer Success, and I just want to introduce our special guest here really quick. For over 25 years, he was a marketing executive. In 2016, he left the corporate world to pursue his passion for photography full time. He's been known for capturing photos of the U.S. Olympics Committee. And in fact, he has photographed the Olympics for the past 6 years to include Beijing, Vancouver, London, Sochi, I might have said that wrong, and Rio.
Here's Sochi there, yeah.
Sochi and Rio, just to name a few. He also works with personal clients, corporate clients as well, and he hosts photo tours worldwide where he goes, shares his knowledge and his passion with other photographers. So guys, please join me in welcoming Jeff Cable to Zenfolio Live. So thank you, Jeff, for joining us.
See if I can get this. As you know, I'm happy to be here. It's cool to be here. I love watching your stuff, and I love Zenfolio. And when they said, "Would you join?" I'm like, "Heck yeah!" So here I am.
Awesome. Well, hey, say hi to us in the chat. You guys, let us know where you're joining us from. We appreciate all of you guys who are hanging out with us. If you have questions for Jeff, make sure that you get those questions in the chat. Jeff's going to be answering those live. Or if you have questions about Zenfolio, Jeff can help you or I can help you. Either one. We'll take some questions. We'll do some screen sharing if we need to. But Jeff, I know you've got a lot of good stuff that you want to share with us today. So I just want to kind of kick it off because I know one of the things that you talk about a lot is why it's so important as a photographer to have a website as part of your business. Yeah, so I mean, you could just share some points about that. I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, the website is where people see your work now. And I've said in the past that, people use, I won't talk about people, but me, I drive by a building going down and I'd see a Apple on the side of a building, like, wow, they must be successful at this really tall, big building. Or Salesforce has their big tower in San Francisco. And you look at that and you think, wow, that's a reflection of that company. And for those little guys like us, our website is that, where people go to the website and you're going to show them a view of yourself. And it's either going to be, here's what I do, or, hey, here's what I do. And I want to show off my best work. I want to make it look professional. I want to highlight certain areas. And so the design of the website, the first impression is really, really important, because that is, what is the typical attention span of a person today? About what? 5 seconds?
5 seconds, yeah, something like that.
And so, having a website that grabs their attention in those first 5 seconds to say, stay a little longer, or look at my work, is really important. Because if you don't have that, I mean, it really is a disadvantage to you, because you've got to put your best foot forward and you have to stand out in those first 5 seconds to say, hey, I'm worthy of contacting, right? And so the look and the professionalism of it is critical.
Absolutely. I love the point that you talk about the attention span of the visitors, because you join us sometimes for Site Review Tuesday. One of the things I always talk about is thinking about websites from your visitor's perspective, right? Because just like you said, it's your calling card. This is, how you're getting new clients, and being able to grab their attention in that first 5 seconds and then take them where they need to be. So just really quick, I know you do site reviews and critiques as well. So what are some of the things that you see a lot of photographers doing really well right now with their websites? And then maybe some things that you see could use some improvement on, maybe a little bit.
Well, so what they do well, and part of this actually is, and this is not a plug for Zenfolio, but I mean, Zenfolio makes people look good by having the nice, clean templates and things. And that's, I think, consistently, and this is true even for people who don't use Zenfolio. A lot of people send me websites and they look very clean, and that's a good thing, because we have this one realtor here in my area, and he sends out these postcard type things in the mail, and it's got like 10,000 words on it. It's just like this, I'm the best, I'm the best. And it's like, it's ridiculous. And we always laugh at it and throw it away. It's so cluttered and so obnoxious. And I think the one thing I've seen consistently is that people do have nice, clean websites. The two mistakes I think I see the most are people trying to put too many images, especially if you're starting out, and look, we've all been there. You put too many images, and so you've got like your good stuff and then your not so good stuff. And I tell people all the time, if you only have 10 good images from a wedding or whatever that you're shooting, you put 10 images. And if you only have 5, you put 5. Don't put 30 thinking you need more if they're not great quality. So I see that. The other thing I think that I've seen in the past is certain galleries that are better than others. And so I'm like, either don't put the other gallery in or highlight it. So for instance, my homepage, the first image that comes up on the homepage, even though most of my income is shooting bar mitzvahs, things like that here in the Bay Area, and also photo tours to Africa, Costa Rica, India, Cuba, whatever. But the first image is the Olympics. And then the second image might be a bar mitzvah, and the third one might be Africa. Then it goes back to the Olympics, or sorry, a wedding, and then the Olympics. It's a very calculated way that I've done my homepage. The first one is, hey, I'm a 6-time Olympic photographer. Whether that helps get me bar mitzvah business or have someone go on a photo tour is arguable, but my answer is it probably does. Having that reputation, it sets me apart from other photographers here in the area. So I throw that at them like, hey, I do the Olympics. But the next image is, but here's hopefully a high quality image from a bar mitzvah I've done. So I don't just do bar mitzvahs. Hey, wait, stick around for a second and look at this, that kind of thing. And so I think about what is the mindset of the person coming to that homepage, and how do I get them from the homepage to move forward?
I love that you're talking about being strategic with the images that you're using on your homepage, because I see this so many times where it's like people just, and a lot of times too, it's like when we're getting started, we're kind of rushing to try to figure everything out. A lot of times when we go to create our website, it's like we needed that yesterday and we're just trying to get it up. But I see a lot of times where there's homepages where it's just like there wasn't any strategic thinking behind it. And so I love that you said you kind of put your Olympic image up there first, because I mean, let's be honest, if you're going to Jeff Cable, probably going because you know him from the Olympics, or or his site's coming up because you're doing a search. And I know Jeff's got some good SEO.
Well, and it's also again, every photographer has, well, let's not even talk about photography. Every business has a unique selling proposition, right? If you're making knives, or you're making headphones, or you're a cleaning service, whatever it might be, you hopefully have something that sets you apart from your competition. Your attitude, you do a better job, it's a better product, more available, made in the USA, whatever, right? And so everybody has that unique selling proposition. And to me, if I just say, gee, I'm a photographer that does events in the San Francisco Bay Area, well, there's lots of them, but none of them do the Olympics. So again, it's calculated. It's not to say I'm better or something like that. It's just saying, hey, to people's external perspective is, if you do the Olympics, you must be a decent photographer, right? If you shoot for Team USA, that is a badge that I wear that I can use to my advantage. So it is calculated. And I think it's important to take whatever you do best. If you want to specialize in weddings, you better have really high quality wedding images to grab their attention straight up.
Absolutely. I think, and I love what you said, that it's about kind of like establishing your identity. It's not necessarily saying, hey, I'm better than the next guy, which obviously a lot of times, you know, that might be the case, but it's about establishing that identity, about brand identity and that kind of thing. So I love that you said that, because as photographers, as businesses, as small businesses, and we do need to think of ourselves as small businesses, we have to set ourselves apart from everybody else that is doing what we're doing. And I love that you have that on there. And then again, you kind of talked about the rest of the images on there being, you know, you start with the Olympics and then you kind of go on to the different types of photography you do, because you do a lot more, a lot of different types of photography. So can you kind of walk us through, when you're selecting those images, what are you thinking about when you're deciding what images you want to show, the order that you're showing them in? Like, what is that thought process kind of going on in your head?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm sure for the other photographers that are on here, they probably will agree with this. We look at our own work in a really critical way. I'll look at images and think, I'm not sure I like that. I'll post, like I remember posting a picture of a sailboat underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. This is a couple of years ago. And I was like, should I even post this? I haven't posted in a couple of days. I'll post it. And I thought, it's okay. People love that image. And I'm like, wait, that was one of the most liked images I've ever posted. I'm like, what? Like, and I was like, should I delete it? Not that I was going to delete it, but I just didn't think it was even worth posting. And so I'm really picky about what goes on my website. I'll come back from Africa with typical safari. I might shoot 12,000 images, keepers, and then I'll edit of those 12,000. I might edit and end up with maybe 100 favorites, of which there's maybe 10 ultimate favorites. And those are the ones that end up on the site. So I'm really picky. Same thing with the Olympics. I mean, there's days at the Olympics we'll shoot 6,000 images a day, and I might post one of those on Zenfolio. So I am very picky about what I put on there. I want to, I always tell people the difference between a photographer and a non-photographer is a non-photographer, you see all their other stuff, and a photographer only trusts to show you their best work. And I shoot for a lot of friends, and they will come over to the home studio and look as I'm downloading, and that's, then they're seeing the stuff that's out of focus, or their eyes are closed, or it wasn't a good pose. And that's stuff that I don't want to show to the general public, right? So I'm really picky about what goes on, and I try to make it so that it is something that I'm proud of, that also, like you said, that represents my brand. I don't put political stuff on there. I don't have nudes on there. I don't, because it's not that I understand that there are a lot of people who do that stuff and do boudoir, and it's awesome. I have no problem with it, but it's not my brand. It's not my clientele. And so it is calculated, every image I put up. And like you said, the order of which those images are in there is also calculated. And then because of listening to you and your talk about SEO, I went back through and went through every image and tried to, caption them and do all that, which I didn't used to do. And so, even though I've been using Zenfolio for a long time, there's still the stuff I'm learning every day, to try to make it better.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So one of the things I heard somebody say a long time ago, and I want to see what you feel about this, is they always say, or not they always say, but this person said to show the type of work that you want to do. So if you want to do more of weddings, or if you want to do more of this particular type of wedding, to show those images, to kind of, for lack of a better words, show the type of work that you want to do. Do you kind of agree with that as far as?
Yeah, totally. And actually, it's timely that you would even mention that, because just a couple of days ago, I got a call from a realtor asking me if I could shoot some property that he's trying to sell. And he said, "Hey, I see that you shot real estate before, or I heard that, but I don't see any real estate on your website." Well, there's a reason for that. And I told him this. I said, normally I'm too busy to shoot real estate. I've got too many things going on in my life, and I just don't have time for it. So I haven't put it on there. Now, with COVID and everything that's going on right now, I've got a lot more free time. I'm not traveling. I'm not shooting events because there aren't any. And so I said, yeah, I could shoot real estate for you. And so my brain started thinking, well, should I create a portfolio quickly on my site that shows real estate, so I can start shooting some more real estate during this downturn and wait for the events to come back. So yeah, I mean, you want to put on there what you want to do and kind of give that focus. If you, like, for instance, I'm not great at doing maternity shots and photos of babies. I've done it for relatives, but it's not what I'm great at. So there's no portfolios on my site that show that, even though I've done it. And the weird thing is, for me, I am not a typical photographer in that I don't specialize in just weddings or just bar mitzvahs or just wildlife or just landscape. And so weirdly enough, I like to photograph it all. So I have night shots on my website and pictures around the world, landscapes, wildlife, events, sports, Olympics, all that stuff. And so my site tends to have a huge variety, which some would argue is too much, but my passion is my passion. So I'm breaking the rules, and it's what I do. So
No, I think it's great. I mean, I was looking at it the other day and it was like, wow, you shoot a lot of different stuff. And there's some amazing, amazing photos on there, some beautiful photos. Guys, if you haven't checked out Jeff's site, all of his links are in the description below this video. So you can actually go to his blog, his website, check all that stuff out. Jeff, I do want to give you a question from the chat. This is the first question I knew we were going to get. You know it too. How did you get your first Olympic assignment? So that's from a guy that you probably hung out with on the Zenfolio live chat a couple of times. Lynn, he joins us week after week. And so he's curious, how did you get your first Olympic assignment?
Yeah, it was tough. Needless to say, there's very few credentials for the Olympics. And I went to the Beijing Olympics in '08, and I was not fully credentialed as a photographer. I went there when I was director of marketing at Lexar, and I led a team of photographers, or a team of people to support the photographers at the Olympics. So we were in the press center, and I saw what the people were shooting, and I was like totally blown away. Like, I want to do that. And then I ended up getting a couple of day passes to shoot certain events. And kind of a weird story, but one of the smaller countries that was representing at the Summer Olympics, they didn't have a photographer. And they said, well, can you shoot some of the stuff? Because she was a writer, not a shooter. And they bought her a little consumer camera and said, can you get some pictures of in the water cube of the swimmers? No way. I mean, the lighting wasn't good, and she had this consumer camera. And so I ended up shooting some stuff for them. And they loved it, and I loved doing it. And I came home and I said, like, I got to do that. I got to do the next Olympics. And so, thinking it might be easier than it was, I thought, okay, I'll just go shoot for, or first I thought I'd contact the U.S. Olympic Committee and find out how to do it. And that just wasn't going to happen. No one's going to answer your phone calls. But I was shooting for the San Jose Sharks and doing stuff with hockey. So after a year or two of talking to newspapers and magazines trying to get an in, which didn't work, I thought, well, I'll just shoot for one of the teams, thinking that the teams have photographers, which they don't. But at the time, I thought they did. So I had ins through hockey because of the San Jose Sharks. And so when I called like USA Hockey and said, hey, I'd shoot for you guys for free, I was willing to do it for free, even though it cost like 10 grand to go. I pitched them, and they didn't, again, they don't answer the phone, and they probably think this guy's nuts, right? Who offers to do something for free that's so expensive and time consuming? And but basically, so I couldn't use that as an in, but I used my connections with the San Jose Sharks and the NHL to contact USA Hockey and say, look, this guy, we know him, he's on the up and up, and he'll do a good job for you. And that's really how I got in. And then, of course, I shot for free for them in Vancouver. And then Summer Olympics was coming up in London. Of course, I was hooked at that point and wanted to do it, but USA Hockey doesn't go to the Summer Olympics. So then at that point, I built contacts within the USOC, and they connected me up with other teams, and I started shooting for other teams, and it's snowballed since then. But it was many, many years of fighting for it, not taking no for an answer. And then, weirdly enough, even at those first two Olympics I did, it was, we will let you know if we have any free passes that come due. So even though I'd gotten approval from the team saying, yeah, we'd love to hire you, I was on the waiting list at that point. Now, that I'm doing my hopefully 7th Olympics in Tokyo, which is supposed to be in 3 weeks, and of course isn't this year. Hopefully next year it'll happen. But now I'm part of what they call like the USOC family. So they know who I am, and I've been working with them for a long time. So I don't have to be on the waiting list anymore, which is nice. But yeah, it's a long, long process.
That sounds like a long process. Incredible story, though. So, looking back on all that experience and all that you had to go through, I know there are a lot of people who are starting out who want to do things like that. Maybe it's not the Olympics. Maybe it's going on Warped Tour and being a photographer for Warped Tour, or working with bands or football teams. So, looking back on that experience, what are some advice that you would give people who are just starting out, trying to get their foot in the door?
And I get this question a lot from people. I mean, again, if there's only 60 credentials for the U.S., the Olympics, the odds of someone getting in are just so hard. So it is building a portfolio. Start with, I mean, when I shot swimming, my first swimming that I shot was my kids when they were 5 years old in the swim team. and then 7 and 8 and 10 and 12. And of course, as they get older, or you start photographing the older kids, they're faster and better. So I'd practiced shooting sports at local events. And in that would be swimming or track or football or soccer or whatever, and just practice and kind of fine tune things, and essentially build a portfolio of images of that. And then as you get better, then you go to your grade schools or high schools and you say, look, look, can I shoot from the sidelines of your football games at the high school games? And you offer to give them the images for free for the yearbook or whatever, just to get access. And they say, sure. And most high schools don't care. And so you go and you shoot those and you build a portfolio and you get good images. Then you go to the college and you say, look, I've shot for these high schools. I'd like to shoot for you guys. And it might be different if you're trying to get into Michigan or Stanford or UCLA, where, those are almost at professional level. But, other colleges that are at the little, lower levels, yeah, they'll probably let you on there. And so you just build. And this is no different from what you're shooting weddings, right? If I look at the images I shot from events 15 years ago, I was building a portfolio, but I wasn't as fine-tuned as I am now. I wasn't good at controlling the light and focus as I am now. So it's a constantly evolving process.
So the two things I took away from the things that you just said is, one, it's not going to fall in your lap. You got to work for it. I think too many people want it to fall in our laps. But two, to get started and not quit and just keep going. And I think that's because I think there's a lot of people who get really discouraged really quickly when they pick up the phone and they make that call, or they apply for that photographer pass and they get the answer no. And a lot of times we get a couple of those and we're ready to throw in the towel. So I think what you just said, really encourages people to, if you get that no, keep working, keep building that portfolio, keep pushing.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a fine line between pushing and being a pain in the butt, and also pushing and being respectful of their time and being nice about it. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people in this world that want to keep people down. I know that sounds weird. I met this young girl in PyeongChang at the last Olympics and the Winter Olympics in Korea. She was from Malaysia, and she was like in her 20s, and she got credentialed through the IOC and to shoot, because she'd photographed figure skating for years. And she wrote to, I'll never forget the story, because I met her, we on a press bus, and we spent a better part of a day shooting together. Really nice kid. And she said that she wrote to the guy who was the one lead photographer, Olympic photographer in Malaysia, and said, how do I become an Olympic photographer? And he wrote back to her a letter and basically said, it'll never happen. Don't even think about it. And she took that letter and she posted it on her wall of her bedroom as incentive, like, I will make it there. And this kid, she's a Canon shooter. I think she might even be sponsored by Canon today in Malaysia. She's really a go-getter. She's my daughter's age, and man, she just wouldn't take no for an answer. And I mean, she was staying at like an Airbnb, like she wasn't staying at press housing. She had no, I mean, it was crazy what she pulled off. And I give her tons of credit for it. But that letter saying, you will never get there, was her incentive to say, I will get there at all cost. And I love that she had that tenacity.
Oh, I love that story. That's amazing. I mean, they're those types of people who would get a letter like that and let it just completely destroy their motivation. But if you could take that and turn it around and let it be your motivation, that's an amazing story. That's definitely an amazing story. Question from the chat from Roxanne Bay. She says, do you shoot alone, or do you use an assistant or a second shooter?
Depends what we're talking about. If we're talking about Olympics, I shoot alone, because getting another credential, which I would need for an assistant, is impossible. So at Olympics, I do alone. I shoot, I have my laptop with me at all times. I use the MacBook Pro. I have the new 16-inch. I'm ready for the next Olympics with that thing. I use fast memory cards, like from ProGrade Digital. I use fast card readers. I drink Diet Coke to keep my brain going, and I am ready to roll. So at the Olympics, I'm solely shooting on my own, editing on my own, and my deadline is 14 minutes. So it's really daunting, because I have to go through the thousands of images I just shot and get 5 or 10 of them back to the US within 14 minutes. So it is crazed. When I shoot here locally for events, I typically shoot alone for things like bar mitzvahs and stuff, unless it's a very large one. So I do shoot for some pretty high-end clients, founders of Google, Facebook, Tesla, whatever. And so some of these people will have very large events, and I'll bring in a second shooter. I actually prefer to work alone if I can. For events less than 200 people, I like to work alone, because there's nothing worse than shooting a party and you go up to someone and you take the picture and they go, "Oh, someone just took our picture 2 seconds ago." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I didn't realize that they were just here," or whatever. And so I keep mental note of who I'm shooting as I'm shooting. I go, "I don't think I got that lady in the red dress yet. Let me go get a picture of her." And so, but with that said, if I'm doing a wedding, I like to bring in a second shooter because I want to have someone covering, that it's a high pressure environment. I need someone shooting the men while I'm shooting the bride getting ready. I need, when they're doing the exchange of the ring and all those things, I want to make sure that I've got a second angle. So for weddings, I'll do a second shooter. But so it depends on the event, depends on the size, also depends on the budget of the person I'm shooting for. So if it's a wedding that they've got, a lot of money, they don't mind paying for a second or third shooter. But if people are on a budget, then I tell them, look, it's better to have a second shooter for a wedding, and I recommend it, but it's going to cost you another $1,800 or whatever it might be. So
also, is that preferred second shooter available? I've definitely worked with second shooters that can be a blessing, and then some that not so much, for sure. So
yeah, I've got a couple that I work with a lot that that I have complete trust in, and if they're not available, then you go to panic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's see. I want to talk a little bit about Book Me. We just released that feature, I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I know I'm on your site. I know you added it to your site. So just curious, what are your thoughts on it so far? What do you think about it? What all have you done with it so far?
So when you guys announced it, I thought, well, that's interesting. It's funny because about a month before that, someone had a button on their site. And I'm like, that's so cool. I wish I had that. And then you guys announced it. I'm like, wait, what'd you guys just announce? I'm like, hey, it's my button. So I just put it on a couple weeks ago, and I thought, okay, allowing people. So here's my thought process. My first thought process was, I don't put pricing on my website. I tend to be higher priced than a lot of people that I'm shooting working against, or my competitors, if you call them that, other photographers here in the area. So I don't like to put pricing on the website. So I didn't want to put like, hey, here's my pricing for a wedding, or here's my pricing for a bar mitzvah or whatever, or family portrait session, because I'd rather them just contact me. So my initial thought was, okay, I'll just put free consult times on there so people can schedule a meeting to talk to me about their event. So that's where it started. And then recently I've added family portrait session, because you can do that during this pandemic. I can stay 6 feet away from people. I can shoot family portraits or grads or whatever. So I've got that on there now. And I did put pricing on there. I didn't discount it. I just put, kind of a normal 1-hour session price. I didn't go into details of what prints and digital images cost and all that, but it's at least something to allow them to kind of come in. And I also have my consultations on there for, for other photographers if they want me to critique their websites or their technique that they're shooting or whatever. So, and I did discount that just because of COVID. I've got free time, so I brought the price down on that. So I'm trying to utilize it in a different way, and it's brand new, and so it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Something fun to try.
Yeah, and in case you guys missed that, he just mentioned that you can go to his site, click book a session, and he has mentoring on there. So if you are interested in doing some one-on-one, maybe mentoring with Mr. Jeff here, you can go to his website and click that book a session button down there and get some one-on-one time with him. But yeah, I think it's a cool feature. I think it was really amazing that in the midst of what's going on right now, that we would release a feature like that. I feel like it is a statement. I know it's a statement for us as what we believe as far as the future of photography and of this business, that it's strong, that we're just kind of going through a weird patch right now. But I believe that when all this is past, and I think it's going to pass, I believe that we are all going to get hammered with stuff, with everybody who's been postponing their weddings, their events. There's probably got to not be enough of us out there to handle all of the stuff that people want to do, which is why I think it's so important right now that if you guys haven't checked out that book a session or the Book Me feature, to make sure you check it out. We did do some live streams on it. You can check those out in the live stream archive. But yeah, you definitely want to be checking that out, which kind of,
when you were talking about how everybody's being swamped next year, I've had so many events that have postponed into next year, and including the Olympics and trips and things, that I think I've got like 4 open weekends next year. So when people say to me like, hey, what Saturdays do you have available? I tell people, look, if you're postponing and you're moving from this year to next year, do it on a Friday or a Sunday if you want to shoot it. It's going to be really busy. And interestingly enough, a little sideline story, I was talking to one of the Getty photographers who shoots sports, and he said, what happens when basketball, football, hockey, soccer, baseball, all are going on at the same time? Like usually if you're Getty or Associated Press, you have a sports photographer or a couple, and someone will cover the hockey game while someone else is covering the basketball game. What happens when all these sports are happening at one time? Like, it's something I hadn't thought about. Like, there's not going to be enough to go around to cover all of it. Honestly, this year is already weird, obviously. And they talk about the new normal, which I don't even know what the heck that is, but it will be interesting to see what that new normal means to us photographers. I get tired shooting all day on a Saturday, right? I mean, if you're starting at 9 a.m. and you get done at midnight, and then you download and back up and do all that. Well, there's a lot of weekends that are going to be happening where I'm gonna have to do that all day Saturday, and then wake up Sunday morning and do it all over again because they're double booking into Sundays or Fridays. It's going to be a lot of work for us. I mean, hopefully, at this point, I'll take it just because I'm bored and I want to get back to being creative.
No, absolutely. I like what you said, that I actually, right before COVID hit, I actually said goodbye to doing volume photography. I did volume youth sports photography for 7 years, I think, something like that. And my son is 8. He's starting to do a lot more, be a lot more active on the weekends. And I was like, man, I'm ready to have my weekends back and not miss that part of his life. And so strangely, right before all that happened and before it became a big deal, I kind of said goodbye to volume photography and got my weekends back. But yeah, I know that when it starts back up, there's going to be people crying for photographers, especially in that industry that you just mentioned. The sports industry is going to be, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. So, you were a marketing executive for 25 years, which I think gives you an amazing edge, because a lot of times us as photographers, we kind of learn about the creative side. We go to school for photography, and a lot of that stuff's great. But we don't really know how to market ourselves sometimes. And we kind of do bad at it sometimes. So what kind of advice would you give people with your background, or maybe not with your background, that doesn't have the marketing background, for how to get started really coming up with like a solid plan to market their business?
Yeah, I always compare photographers to doctors. My dad was a doctor. Doctors are just bad business people. At least that's an overgeneralization, but that's what they say. Their handwriting is bad and they're not good business people. And photographers, we're creatives. And so by default, creative people tend to think, if I take a really great photo, I will be successful. And I tell people all the time, that's not the case. And when people that are younger, like high school, college people, will email me, and I answer every email, and they'll email me and say, hey, I'm thinking about becoming a photographer. Should I study photography? And my answer is, don't study photography, study business or marketing, and learn to take a good photo. Like, you can learn your photographic skills on your own, read a lot, go to do some workshops, whatever it might be. But for your education, it's really important to have the business side, because what I see is this: there are people that take amazing photos. And I look at magazines, you and I talked about this last week, where there are photographers that kick my butt. I mean, I look at stuff and think, God, how do they do that? And I question my work all the time. But I know that I'm more successful around here, not because of my photography. I mean, yes, I take a good photo and that's important, but it is understanding the website, the prioritization of the images, the organization of the page, the when I do shoot, I'm a total ham. So as you could tell, so when I shoot, I have fun. I have fun with the family and the kids and the grandparents, and I insert myself mentally into that family for that day. And those clients, I stay in touch with a lot of those clients, and a lot of those clients are good friends of mine, because I am part of that family, and I'm very lucky in that relationship with them is critical. And I built that, and it's not, yes, my marketing background says the client is important and the relationships are important, but that's just who I am as a person, is I embrace that. So I like to keep in touch with people and know what's going on with the families, and be a part of their lives still. And that really does benefit me, because especially right now, when their event is postponed, they call me first and they say, what dates are you available? And we're going to try to work to those dates before we even talk to the priest, the rabbi, the whoever, the venue. And so that's an amazing compliment. It means that I'm really important to them, that I'm there for their event, especially when it's their third or fourth kid and I've worked with the whole family. So it is those types of things that I'm constantly thinking. And yeah, when I'm out shooting, I try to keep a smile on my face. And sure, look, we've all been there where we're exhausted. That last hour of the reception or the party, and you're like, it's just more dancing, and I'm tired, and I want to go home. But you have to have that smile on your face. I try not to sit down and eat and where anybody can see me, because I don't want ever someone to see me sitting. So I'm usually upstairs or behind the stage or wherever it might be, slamming my food, because I don't want the clients to see me ever stop. And I want the clients to say, man, you got everything. I didn't even know those things were happening. I never saw that. The kids were doing this, or grandma was dancing with so-and-so. How did you do that? And so I want that. And so again, that's my brand. So I try to stay on brand and thinking about what is happening in front of me at the expense of my exhaustion, because I want to over deliver every time, because I don't advertise. And if you over deliver every time, your clients are your best advertising. And so I do keep that in the back of my mind all the time. And I remember UPS put something out years ago, an article where they said they told their drivers, every time you show up to a door to hand a package, this is back in the days when you'd open your door and talk to your UPS guy. They said, when you do that, you should see a dollar sign on everybody's forehead that says $1 million. Because when you treat that customer right, they're going to tell people that you treat them right. If you treat them badly, they're going to tell 20 people as opposed to one or whatever. So think about, every person is important. When I'm shooting an event, and it was a long answer, but when I'm shooting an event, I'm cognizant of that all the time. Everybody that I'm interacting with at an event who sees me smiling and having a good time as I'm shooting is thinking, wow, this guy's having a good time, and he takes great photos. Because I do same day slideshows and things to show my work to those people. Again, to show off, I can take a good photo. You should hire me too. So I'm thinking all this stuff. It's a lot, but.
No, I love it. So what I love is that I just asked somebody with a 25-year background in marketing about marketing, and you immediately went to rapport and client relationships, which is something that nobody ever talks about. When you hear people talk about marketing, they're talking about buying Facebook ads or this or doing this. And I don't know, I think it's probably true with you from what you basically just said, but 99% of the clients that I've got in my business has been from word of mouth.
Yep.
Not from somebody seeing an ad that I paid something for on Facebook or anything like that. But from word of mouth is 99% of where I've got my business. And I love that is how you answered that question. That is like the best answer I could have asked for.
Well, and the thing is that, like, I don't advertise. I at times I did like Google AdWords. I've never done a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad or any of those things to get, event business. But like you said, I mean, having someone refer you is the most powerful advertising ever. And so I think about that. Having that in your brain all the time when you're shooting is important, because it keeps you smiling and keeps you in the event when you're shooting, because you have to realize that if you're shooting a wedding, there's going to be other people that are at that wedding that'll be getting engaged soon because of the age group. Or if you're at a bar mitzvah, you're surrounded by a bunch of Jewish people who have similar age kids, whatever. And so that is your customer set right in front of you. And so when I talk about over delivering, I try to set a bar here and deliver here, to the point where when I shoot a bar mitzvah from 9 in the morning, we'll do portraits to 10:30, the service till 12:30, lunch for a little bit, and then I go home and cull through images, build the same day slideshow. But I also find the best image of that the kid or the family, and I print, matte, and frame. I've got a Canon Pro 1000 printer here. I'll print on fine art paper. I buy a pallet of frames when they're on sale, big ones. I'll print 12 by 16 and 16 by 20 frame. I mat them, print them, mat them, frame them, and bring it to them as a gift that evening. So when I show up to their party at 5:30 or whatever it might be in the evening, I have that as a gift, and then they display it. Everybody who walks into the party thinks like, wait a second, is that from today? And so it's not only for the family, but it also says to all those people that are coming to the party, like, this guy is able to deliver in a time frame that is not the norm, and gifting that kind of thing. It's in front of people's faces as they walk in. I used to originally by my projector for the same day slideshow, I used to put business cards, a stack of them there. I don't do that anymore. I haven't done that in about 6 years because I don't want to look like an ambulance chaser. So I don't do that anymore. I keep it very subtle. If someone says to me, do you have a business card? I usually say, I don't have one, but mom has my information. She's your friend, you're at the party here. Or I'll say, let me get one for you because I don't have them with me. And I'll go back to my camera bag and get one. I never want to have them on me and look like, oh yes, here, hire me. I don't want to look like that. Again, on brand. It's just trying to, keep it like that.
I love it. I love it. That's amazing. That's amazing. We got a couple more questions. You guys keep them coming for Jeff. Great questions. Lynn wants to know, what do you use for image storage? So I'm assuming like at the Olympics, when you're out in the events where you're not going to be getting access to things for a while, what are you using for image storage that you can bring with you there?
So I use Drobo for all of my storage. I have a Drobo 8D here on this computer that's got about 60 terabytes on it. That's my main storage for all my images. I also have a Drobo 810N that's on the other side here. That's their network drive. That's got another 50 terabytes on it. Everything that is shot and culled through that's on this direct attached drive, once I'm done with the shoot, gets moved over to the network drive. And then behind me right there is another drive where my thumb is right there. That's another A10N. That's a third drive now. And that one is normally up in Sacramento. And that one remotely syncs from my main NAS drive here over the internet every night at 11 o'clock. I brought it back because I'm doing some work to it right now. It'll be sent back up to Sacramento probably tonight. But so that one, so what I do is every image I've ever shot since 1995 is here, there, and also up in Sacramento. So God forbid there's an earthquake or fire here, I have all my images. And if a client, and I've had this where clients will contact me from 10, 12, 15 years ago and say, do you still have that photo of, yeah, I've got it.
Nice. And I'm assuming all of that stuff that you mentioned is listed in your gear list, right?
Yep, it's on the gear list and on my webpage. Yep, there. Cool. And I should also mention that when I'm at the Olympics, I'm using portable solid state drives, and I back up to 2, 3, 4 of those. I also use Dropbox for putting all my favorite stuff when I'm at the Olympics or traveling. Africa is a little tough because the internet's not great, but I try to put favorite images there so they're in the cloud. Yeah, that's kind of the general way that I work.
Nice. And then let's see, I'm probably going to say their name wrong. It's Adbach or Adbach wants to know, what is your preference? Do you like SLRs or do you like the new mirrorless cameras?
I'm all SLR right now. So I work with Canon. I'm a Canon guy, and they sponsor me. And so I'm using the 5D Mark IV and the 1DX Mark IIIs right now. And the Canon R is really interesting to me, but the actual R camera itself was not right for me. It only had 1 card slot, and I always shoot to 2 cards. And there's some other things about it that weren't right. The R5, which I believe is being announced next week, I am uber excited about that. I think that camera could be a game changer for Canon. So if asking me that today, the answer is DSLR. Ask me again in another month. It could be different. So I think it'll be a combination thereof. Like at the Olympics, the 1DX Mark III, just because of the sheer power, speed of focus, and everything else, that will still be the sport shooter camera for a while. With that said, the Olympics is still a year away. So will Canon have another, R series camera for the sport shooter by then? Maybe, I don't know. That could change. But right now, I'm still using DSLRs.
Nice. That's me too. I haven't checked out many of the newer mirrorless, but I'm still on a DSLR. But quick question. So this is the one I'm actually curious about. You've been with Zenfolio for quite a while now, through the good times and the bad times.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite things about our services the service that we offer? What are some of the things about our platform that you've hung with us for so long?
Yeah, I've been through the good times, bad times. And it's well, okay, a couple of things. The reason I use it, one, is it makes me look good. It's simple to use. I can update it on the fly in seconds, and I do. Like I do a fairly good job of updating and adding images to portfolios and stuff like that, changing the SEO. So the simplicity of it is number one. Well, no, the fact that it makes me look as good as it does, because I don't have to know web design and HTML. The simplicity would be number two. Number three is I love the fact that it could be my website, but also my galleries for my clients. So when I shoot an event or family portraits or grad portraits, whatever I'm doing right now, I come home, I cull through them, and usually have the gallery built within an hour or two of coming back. If I'm shooting an event like a bar mitzvah or wedding, I post the gallery the next day, usually by 1 p.m. And I love the fact, the simplicity of just getting the images from here to the gallery, setting up the passwords, sending it out to the client, and being done. It's a combination of simplicity and just kind of the overall usability of it to do everything. I will say that I went through the tough time a year or two ago. I was pretty vocal with everybody from the top down over at Zenfolio about I want the upload speed to be faster and more reliable. And man, it's awesome right now to be able to upload. So for one, I have fiber optic internet here now. So I've got 900 up, 900 down, which is amazing. So my gallery load time has gone down to 10 seconds, 12 seconds. I mean, it's crazy how fast it is. So I love the fact that I have that speed, but I also love the fact that Zenfolio has a speed on their side to reliably get the images out. So it really is all those pieces. With you guys coming out with new features, some of them are cool, some I don't use, some I do, I pick and choose. But the main thing is that I have a good, clean website that looks good. I have a great gallery for for my clients to access and pick their images, and those things work. Pretty much end of story.
Awesome. Love those answers. A couple of things I wanted to read to you from the chat. So Little Lizard Love said that we look alike, like mirror images of each other, except the colors are reversed. So maybe I could be a Jeff Cable impersonator one of these days. I'll just have to get the whole voice down. There we go. Let's see.
We're both that good looking, huh?
That's what I was thinking, right? Thomas Hayes said, seeing you say with a smile on your face that the R5 is going to be a game changer makes them very happy. So really cool. And then let's see, a question from, is it Michael? I can't pronounce the last name, so I'm just going to skip it. Sorry, Michael. What are your plans for sports photography outside of the Olympics when they reopen?
Good question. I don't know yet because everything is still so up in the air right now. So my original thought, like for instance with hockey, was, oh, when they restart, if they restart with no one in the crowd, that means I could shoot anywhere on the plexiglass and I don't have to worry about blocking anybody's view. Well, hockey is not going to continue here in San Jose. So the team didn't do that well. We're not in the playoffs, and San Jose is not one of the cities that they're looking at resuming hockey in. So that's done. As far as things like Niner games, soccer, stuff like that, it will be interesting to see how that works. I don't know yet what will happen, but if there's no fans in the stadium, does that also mean that they're going to limit the press more, or does it give us more access because we can shoot from anywhere? And so I think there's so much uncertainty within the leagues themselves as to what they're doing that it's too early for me to even answer the question. It is confusing. is the, so I mean, I wish, as I keep telling other photographers, I wish someone would come to us and say COVID-19 will be over on October 17th at, like, give us a date, because this forever continuation of the pandemic and the uncertainty, there's a lot of negativity out there between that and the Black Lives Matter and all the other things that are going on. And it is hard, even for me. I'm a very glass is half full kind of person. But there are times I get really down with all this. And so trying to figure out what the leagues are going to do is, I'll just go by what they're going to do. One giant question mark at this point.
Yeah, I think there's so many different routes they could take on that too. I mean, they could go to like you were saying, where games are resuming but no fans, and then what does that mean for photographers? Like, it's so hard to tell right now
Right.
which route they're going to take. So a question from Lynn says specifically, so this is back to kind of a marketing, and I know you kind of answered this because you said you don't really advertise, but he said specifically, are you using direct mail, Facebook ads? What's your marketing mix? So I know again that you said you don't advertise.
Maybe well, and I have in the past, I've done a little bit. So when I advertised, the tiny extent that I did, when I first started, I bought the Google AdWords. I did, as a favor for a friend of a friend, I did their daughter's bat mitzvah. And it wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna start a photography business. It was just, they asked me to do it. They knew that I love photography. And I was like scared to death I was gonna butcher their event. So I didn't know what to charge them. I said, look, I'll do it for free. If you like the images, you pay me. And if you don't, don't. That kind of took the pressure off of me. I did it. They paid me. And then two of their friends came to me and said, will you do ours? And I thought, well, that was easy money and fun. Sure. So I did them. And then it started growing. And I thought, okay, I want to do more of these. My son, who's dyslexic, was going to a special school. It was expensive. I thought, okay, I'll make some side money. So I bought the Google AdWord for bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, bar mitzvah party, whatever it would be. It was really inexpensive. Where everybody's fighting for the wedding business, which might cost you $10 a click or more, for bar mitzvahs and quinceaneras or whatever it might be, it's probably a lot less. It might cost you $3 a click. And so I was paying at the time, I think $1.50 a click or whatever it was. Well, if I was spending $40 a month, if one person clicked on that link, it paid for my advertising for the next 15 years, right? Or whatever. So I did that for a while. And then I got so overbooked that I just turned it off. And it's been off for about the last 18 months. And once in a while, I could turn it on right now for real estate photography or graduation photography. I haven't, but you could. I've never done Facebook or Instagram ads. I don't think that'd be right for my clientele. I could be wrong. Maybe for the photo tours, it could be good. But I'd done a couple of the ads in the temple newsletters where they come to you and go, hey, we really want you to advertise in our thing. And I did that one time and I got no business out of it. So I was like, and it was expensive compared to Google. So I tell people that are new photographers, especially if you specialize in something beside weddings, Google AdWords can work really, really well.
Nice. Love that answer. Kind of another marketing question really quick. And this is a really good one, because when it comes to marketing, when you're doing things that have actual clients, where you're doing portrait sessions and you could provide that amazing service where you leave that really good feeling, well, like, yeah, they're definitely going to be recommending me. But when you take it to photography, where it's like doing landscapes, doing nature, fine art photography, where you don't really have those clients that you can kind of build that. What is some marketing advice for people who do that type of photography?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one right now. I tell people, like, if you think you're going to do landscape photography and sell it online or sell it at art shows, and of course there aren't many art shows happening right now, that's a really tough business. A lot of people are printing their own photos that they took, and they may not be as good as what we're all capturing, but it's their photo and tells their story. And so it is a tough business. And I tell people, when they say, hey, I want to become a landscape photographer or even a sports photographer, honestly, when people write to me and say, hey, I'd love to become a sports photographer, I'm like, be careful what you wish for. Because Sports Illustrated really doesn't have any photographers anymore. They're just using Getty, AP, or hiring people as they need them. And Getty and AP pretty much own the sports photography for everybody. So there aren't that many left. And so when, it's shooting events, I think there's still good money in that. There are people like myself that are doing photo tours, and there's decent money in that. But I don't know. I mean, it's a tough one if you're going to try to advertise, hey, buy my prints of a landscape I just shot in Colorado or wherever it might be. I do have a gallery section on my Zenfolio page, and I rarely sell stuff off of it. I think that's a really tough business. And stock photography, I actually uploaded some stuff to a stock photography site. I thought, what the hell? I've never done it. I got free time. Good Lord. I mean, I was selling some of my favorite images. I'm like, that's cool. And then they'd say, here's your commission, 18 cents, 52 cents. I'm like, you're kidding. And like, I wrote to them and said, please remove my account. Like, and they're paying that, they don't write back to you. But the commissions were pathetic. Like I told them, I said, even if you paid me 10 times that, 100 times that, I would think that's unacceptable. So tough to make, I mean, it is tough to make money in that respect. And some people may be doing it and doing it well. Maybe I just did it wrong. So.
And one of the things I've seen a lot of people do that do those types of things is kind of what you're doing with the photo tours. I mean, obviously we cannot do that kind of stuff right now, but doing courses, even virtual courses where you're like, okay, this is a macro workshop, we're going to do this virtual through a Zoom and teach a macro workshop. And that's where I've seen a lot of people that do that type of photography make their money versus selling their images. And they might also be using that as a way to kind of funnel people into their galleries to show their work, where then maybe they can sell some of their images that way.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of people ask me to do that, and I've never done it. Although I've been creating tons of YouTube videos for free, I'd rather just do them for free. So I've shot, I think 20 some odd different videos on how to shoot macros in your own backyard, or how to shoot a swim meet, or certain Photoshop techniques that I really like. And so I've been posting those every week on the YouTube channel, which is just YouTube/C, I don't know why, /Jeff Cable.
Yep, it's in the description.
There you go. It's there. And so I've been putting free videos up there. And at this point, doing the free ones is more fun than trying to charge for it anyway. And so I'm trying to give people some ideas of things to do. I am contemplating writing a book. I've thought about it in the past. A lot of people asked me in the past, and I do have a publisher who asked me to do it. I'm thinking about it, because if I'm not working for the next 6 months doing a lot of shooting, maybe I'll have time. So that's something I'm thinking about, but not decided yet. So
nice. That's amazing. That'd be interesting. That'd be a good read. So I'm trying to get through these 3 questions. We have like 50, or we have like 3 or 4 minutes left.
Okay.
Quick rundown of your game day workflow.
That's going to take 3 minutes. All right, I'll do it quick. I shoot. Sometimes I'll mark my favorites in camera, but a lot of times I don't. Just shoot, download, again, with the equipment I have, which is fast. I download quickly. I use Photo Mechanic to go through my images, find the best ones. I mark them, filter out anything I haven't marked. I then have whatever I've left. I'll go through, hit E to edit, that launches Photoshop. I will then do quick retouching, and then those are what goes on the gallery. And I actually have one of the videos that's on my Zenfolio page. I have a page under the about, or under, I think it's about, it says Jeff's videos. Go to that, and toward the bottom, you'll see my workflow. And there's a whole video about how I do my workflow. It's about 5 or 6 years old, but it's still valid. So
I'm going to throw that in the chat for you guys really quick. So let me grab that link and throw it in the chat. Jeff, so this is from Roxanne. She says, I see you have a DJI Phantom 4 drone. How did you find the learning curve to be proficient using that drone?
Actually, it was pretty easy to fly. With GPS, it'll hold itself steady. I mean, yes, I've crashed them. I've crashed one into a castle in Switzerland. I've crashed one in France. I've beaten them up, but crashed one into a tree here in the neighborhood when I was first learning. Here's the trick: put it up high above all tree levels and just learn to fly it high. That's the way to do it. I don't fly it much anymore because there's so many restrictions on where you can fly. You can't fly anywhere anymore. But I still enjoy it. I haven't used it in a while, but it's actually not that hard to fly. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, we had a drone. It wasn't like a DJI Phantom. It was just like it was a toy one basically. And I had it for a couple of days, and my son was like, hey, can I fly it? And I was like, okay. I handed him the controls, and the first thing he did was full throttle straight up, and he got stuck in this really high tree. And
the hardest part about flying a drone, this is a hint for her, when you're flying, the hardest part is when it's flying toward you and everything's reversed. So left is right, right is left. You have to get used to that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely weird. Lynn says, will you do another interview with us next year after the Olympics?
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. I mean, like I said, I'm a ham. I love doing it. And I do, here's the thing, like I'm lucky that I have sponsors like Zenfolio and Canon and Frodo and all these, and Think Tank and on and on, ProGrade. But those people are people I trust and believe in. So I never say no to interviews because they are products that I believe in that have really helped me do what I do. And so, yep, I won't say no. And I'd love to share the stories. I'm hoping to God that, that we have the chance to do the Olympics next year. My challenge will be, I come back from the Olympics and I think I have like 6 days here before heading off to Africa for a month. So it'll be a tight window, but totally would love to do it. So, awesome, or we do it after Africa. So.
Oh yeah, would love to have it. Would love to have it. So it's the last question I'm going to give you. Then I'm going to let you give us some final thoughts because I know we got to run. And this is a great question. So this is from John. He says, do you have an event that's kind of on your bucket list that you would love to do that you would like to have featured on your site? Great question.
Do you have an event that I'd love to do? Yes, lots. It's so funny. There are lots of things that I would love to do. There are certain athletes that I haven't photographed that I'd like to photograph. Not really politicians. I'm not a very political person. But certain athletes and certain musicians, artists that I think that I've looked up to that I think would be fun to do. And as far as actual events, I love doing events. Like I did one where like they had I've done a couple of them where they've had like rock stars come in and do them for a private party. And that's really fun because then you have full access on stage to shoot them. So I love that kind of stuff. But I like shooting anything new. I say this at the Olympics all the time. People ask me my favorite sport to shoot, anything new. I'm from San Francisco. We don't get a lot of bobsled and luge here. So it's fun to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's probably 100 other things and places that I'd like to go that I haven't been to. They're still on the list. So I'm far from satisfied. I'm never satisfied. I'm always wanting to do the next thing. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. I would love to just chat with you for the rest of the day, man. This has been a blast. You have any final thoughts you want to leave everybody with?
Just, I hope that everybody stays healthy and sanity stays there too. I mean, it's testing all of us, right? With this just ongoing pandemic. But I just hope that everybody, keeps a smile on their face as much as they can and try to go out there and be creative. And like I said, I'm trying to inspire other people with the YouTube page and the blog and trying to throw ideas out there for people so that they can, have some fun projects to try. And, just hopefully we get through all this. And next time we talk, it's big smiles because we're back to full-blown business again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, Jeff, thank you again so much. It's been amazing having you on here. I thank you so much for your knowledge and your expertise and just sharing your stories with us. It's been great. To all of you guys who hung out with us today, thank you so much. I'll see you guys again on Tuesday for Site Review Tuesday. Who knows, maybe Jeff will hop in on that one and hang out with us in the chat. But hey, until next week, make sure that you guys have a safe, wonderful weekend. Make sure that you go and you do something positive for somebody, that you encourage somebody, that you lift somebody up, that we all work together to make the world a better place because we could sure use it right now. Thank you so much, Jeff. Happy 4th of July to all of you guys. Happy 4th to you, Jeff, as well. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Back at you.
Everybody, have a good one.
Thanks.